Hello, and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. This is where we start out with a fantasy trip to Costa Rica, then we bring it back home to Florida, and we go all the way around the state out to Lower Alabama. And we're going to get the word from the water from each one of the guys that fishes it every day. And hey, tonight we're even adding a new feature. It's called Chasing the Bite. Maybe it doesn't help you guys so much to know right now what's biting in Destin, Florida, but it may well help you to know that our buddy out there, Tyler Massey, may think there's going to be a great bite of gag grouper on the next full moon. Just an example, but we're going to give it a try and see if we can get you guys dialed in, not only on where they're biting, but where we think they're going to bite and where you need to plan your next trip. We hope you're going to enjoy that. We're going to start it out tonight, and we'll look for your feedback to see whether or not it should continue. We really hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and listen, if you do, please subscribe to us. The show tonight is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat, spay, and offshore hybrid boats? You need to check out youngboats.com. Now, let's head on over to Costa Rica, check in with our buddy Craig Sutton. You ever want to go catch a bunch of marlin, a bunch of sailfish, and a bunch of big yellowfin tuna, may I highly recommend Nosara Paradise Rentals. I've been there. We caught blue marlin. We caught black marlin. We caught Pacific sails. We had an absolute ball, and we have a good friend there, a Florida boy, Craig Sutton from right here in Jacksonville. Craigie, how we doing this evening?
Doing great, Captain Ricky.
Good deal. I understand things are heating up there. It's not going to be long before your boats will be back fishing.
Yes, sir, buddy. I can't wait. June 30th is the last day.
Craig, we're starting a new feature tonight, and you're the perfect one to kick it off because guys are planning their summer vacation. Looking at the next, 45 to 60 days, typical summer vacation time, when would you target Nosara? When would you be there?
I like the full moon, but sometimes the full moon can be too strong and the current's too strong. I did 2 grand slams on back-to-back trips, the full moon in August one year. One year in the end of May on a full moon, I caught 7 caberas. But I've been down there cabera fishing primarily on the full moon, and the current was too strong.
I see. So what would your best guess be come the week before?
Get there 4 or 5 days, maybe 6 days before the moon, and then start fishing, and then you'll know when it shuts down. I mean, it'll be real obvious to you, but, you know, the marlins seem to bite real good on that strong current up to a point. The times I did 2 grand slams, I did it in 4 hours one day and 2.5 the second time. 7 marlin the first day and 5 the second with sailfish and all kinds of yellowfin and 40-pound critters mixed into it, you know. But that was around the full moon in August. But like I said, I've been there the full moon in May a couple times and the full moon in August, and it was too much current. They wouldn't bite. So
I see. There's
a happy medium there. And I think our area is different than a lot of places. We have a ton of current all the time. So it may very well be that we just get too much current. Unlike, I mean, I've seen it here off our coast in Jacksonville that gets too much current and shuts it down, but it's unusual.
Right, I got you. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to stay at least a week to where if you arrived there on the full moon and it wasn't too strong, you'd be in great shape. But if it was, by the end of your trip, you'd be squared away.
That's right, or stay 2 weeks.
Even better.
Even better in my world, yeah.
Darn right. Have you heard any fishing news down there? Are the Costa Ricans doing any fishing?
No, they're locked down, man. Our guys are laying concrete block and pouring cement.
Yep. Well, it won't be long now. The time's right around the corner, and if guys are smart, they want to book August or September, they better hurry, hadn't they?
Well, August is pretty well shut off. We still got dates in July, which are just as good a date, and then we got dates September and October.
Okay, and keep in mind that Craig gave you a little tip in your back pocket. Look at that full moon. You might well be in for the bite of a lifetime. Thank you, Craigie. We'll talk with you next week.
Thanks, Ricky.
All right, buddy. Captain Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Fishing. You want to go to NosaraRentals.com, Nosara Paradise Fishing, or give him a call at 904 591-2161. All right, now back to the States. Let's take a stop in Northeast Florida and check in with our buddy Captain David Voorhees, who is always up to date on what's going on with the fish. For example, David, what is the water temperature in the Intercoastal today?
Well, I'll tell you, Ricky, we're just about to hit the 80 mark. It's still around 78, 79, and we're bordering right on that 80-degree mark, but we haven't quite hit it yet.
I knew good and well he'd know, and I knew he could probably tell me the salinity too. You got a salinity number for me?
I have, and it hasn't been that bad with all the rain we've gotten. It's actually been pretty good. We're looking around 24, 25 parts per thousand, and that's not too bad. But I'll tell you, Rick, we had this little cold front come through and northeaster blow, and I tell you what, that was sort of the kiss of death these last 2 days. It has really been tough on the inshore fishermen, and I probably talked to 6 or 7 captains today. I saw at least 4 or 5 on the waterway. As we were passing each other, we were all giving each other the thumbs down, so pretty much knew everybody was struggling today. You know what I'm finding when those conditions happen, you're better off just keep running and gunning. You might only get 1 fish out of a hole, and that's about as good as you can do. Today, I didn't even waste time. We caught a big red right off the bat. I thought the bite was going to be good, and we sat there for another 20 minutes and never got another bite. So right then and there, I said, woo, it's going to be a run and gun day. And that's the way we ended up. We had a nice trout, a nice flounder, and a nice red. You know, last couple of days, like I said, I've talked to several other captains in the area. And this week, it was really funny because we caught some redfish, Rick. I'm talking 6-inch redfish, some of the smallest. The shrimp is so big, you can't even imagine these little redfish would eat the shrimp, you know. And it was so funny. And I didn't say anything to anybody, but every captain said, you know, I caught some of the smallest redfish I've ever caught this week. And I heard that from 3 other captains. So something's going on. We got a lot of little reds. That doesn't bother me at all. I'm glad to see that stuff and know the population's in good shape. But there's still some good fish around. We saw some big trout again this week. Got a real nice flatty this week. I sent you a photo of a 4.5 pounder, and we got a 7-pound trout this week also. I'll tell you something else that showed up on the inshore scene that doesn't get a lot of credit, and it really should, because I tell you what, they are a blast, and that is the bonnethead sharks.
Mm-hmm.
And we caught some really big ones, and I'm talking in shallow water. I'm talking 2 feet of water. You hook a 20-pound bonnethead shark, and, you know, the young man I had also was the same kid that caught a 7-pound trout, biggest trout of a lifetime for him, and he actually enjoyed catching that bonnethead shark more than he did that big gator trout.
Oh, there's something about kids and sharks, David. Kids love to catch sharks.
You know, they said, well, we've heard those are good to eat, because we caught a couple, and they were really nice size. So we kept one. I tell you what, I had the guys over for a grill out, and we grilled that shark, and those guys could not believe how absolutely delicious it was.
Really?
Really. It was really good. Rick, I'd put it up against anything. It was that good.
Come on now. You put it up against a piece of cobia on the grill? Come on now.
Absolutely would.
Triggerfish?
Now, triggerfish is a different story just because of that nutty flavor.
I got you there.
But, yeah. It's been a tough week. I'm not going to lie to you. Every captain I talked to today was sort of really talking about how tough the bite's been. Can't quite put our fingers on it. We don't know why, but we're hoping on the next moon things will pick up.
Gotcha. Hey, let me give you the offshore news, because you could knock me over with a feather, okay? I never dreamed that out of Jacksonville, Florida, we would see a 643 boat kingfish tournament again. It happened on Saturday. Unbelievable. And the reason is the new format. It's a 1-day tournament only, and the limit is 3 miles from the beach. You can't pin up bait in advance, and you can't buy live bait for the tournament. They called it the old school kingfish shootout for a reason, because it's the way we used to do it. You throw the net on pogies, you pull them in ribbons, and what a surprise it was. It took a 43 to win it, which was a little bigger than I thought it would take. There was, I think, one other fish over 40, lots of high 30s, a great time had by most boats. I know our buddy Roger Walker had 5 kings and a couple of sharks and a couple of bonita. He was busy all day long. Steve Proctor was. Roger finished in the top 10, by the way. But there were some great fish caught, and that is going to be the wave of the future when it comes to our tournaments. Now, further offshore, the mangrove snapper bite is insane, David. They are biting already on this building moon, and by the time the moon gets full, they are going to be going crazy. There's trips going during the day and at night, and they're doing extremely well on the mangrove snapper, and there's even some mahi swimming up around the boat getting caught, and still several cobia being caught. So offshore fishing's good. The weather's good. I think all in all, it's an awfully good time to visit Northeast Florida, David.
And those mangroves, it sounds like those things are biting all up and down the East Coast.
Everywhere.
Is that correct?
That's exactly right. It's kind of like the blackfin tuna. They're just having a really good year, and I'm so thankful for it.
Well, that's fantastic. I love to hear when a fishery is really producing more than what we expect it to do. It sounds like the mangrove snapper is the hit of the year, so let's hope it keeps up.
Yep. Hey, you and I will be sailfish fishing on Wednesday, right?
Man, I'm so excited I won't be able to sleep for 2 nights.
I am too. All right, buddy, we appreciate it. Thank you, David.
All right, we'll see you, Ricky.
Our thanks to Captain David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report, where it sounds like offshore fishing might have been a lot better than inshore fishing was this weekend. Sound like he struggled today. I can't really understand why. We've got good weather, but the fish don't always bite when we tell them to. That's just kind of how it goes. Let's move down the coast a little bit and pull over and talk with our buddy Jim Ross. Jimmy, are you with us?
I'm here, Rick.
What's going on, big dog?
Well, we've had a pretty interesting last couple of days here in the Central East region. We've had some pretty epic dolphin bites, and then we've had some skunks. So it's really one of those things where the weather hasn't been as consistent as we'd like it to be, and because of that, I think we're seeing the bites follow the same kind of a trend, both inshore and offshore. Our king mackerel bite, the fish came to the beach like we had discussed here the last week or two, saying, hey, these fish should be coming to the beach, Well, they came. We even had sailfish inshore this past Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So
that'll work.
It's been pretty neat to hear some of the guys out there trolling around, live bait for kingfish in the buoy line there at Port Canaveral, and all of a sudden they got a sailfish in the spread.
Mm-hmm.
We brought a real clean push of water in. It came up from Sebastian, kind of worked its way up through Canaveral Thursday and Friday. And like I said, that clean water pushed everything way inshore. We had flying fish in 40 feet of water. We had sailfish in 40 feet of water. We had king mackerel in 20 to 40 feet of water. So what actually happened was, the previous couple of days was a fish rat on the reef. They were out, 16, 18, 20 miles. And all of a sudden we got this clean water, and this fish decided that they were coming to the beach. And I would say that probably 95% of the fishermen that went out Thursday through Sunday overshot the fish.
That's a common thing. That happens. And I think, Jimmy, when guys start hitting them in April and May, they tend to want to gravitate back to those same spots. And a lot of times the fish have slipped right past them.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting the way that they move around, and they definitely don't do what you anticipate them doing 90% of the time. And 10% of it, we get it right, and then we pat ourselves on the back, call ourselves a hero. But
we just tend to forget the other 90%.
Yeah, easily forgotten. Actually, I had something on Friday. We got out off the beach, doing the kingfish thing about 9 miles out. The demon got on the boat, and the two boys were not feeling too good, and then Dad wasn't feeling too good, and so we only had basically one angler on the boat participating in the charter. And I was like, guys, we don't have to do this. This is supposed to be fun. You're not out here to to get beat on and have to suffer the whole time. And he said, well, can we go in and do something inside? And I said, yeah. Now, at Sebastian and Ponds, it's a whole lot easier. You just run in the inlet, and then you can pretty much start fishing. You're in the backwater. So at Canaveral, we've got locks, and you can't do that at Canaveral. It takes about an hour to transition through the lock, And then, of course, you have to factor that back in for your return trip. So it's actually easier for us to go put the boat on the trailer and then go to wherever we want to go to. So I ran in to the Indian River and launched in Port St. John with those guys on Friday at about 12 o'clock. And at about 12:30, we were into a trout bite and a little bit of ladyfish action going on. And one of our ladyfish was probably 10 or 11 inches long that we hooked up on a little plug. And Troutzilla decides he wants to eat that thing and grabbed it, and I could see him swimming across the bow of the boat with the ladyfish hanging out both sides of his mouth. Yeah, and this fish is 30, 31, 32 inches long. I mean, it's just an absolute giant of a trout. And it looked to me like the hook, one of the hooks was still in the ladyfish, and the other hook looked like it was sticking into the side of the fish's, maybe their gill plate on the right side of the fish as it swam by. So I said, Jack, one of the guys on the boat, Jack, grab the rod. Jack grabs the rod. He goes, what do I do? And I opened the bail, so the fish wouldn't feel any tension. I said, look, just close the bail, start to wind down. When it comes tight, just give it just a little stick, So he winds down and he feels the tension and he does the Roland Martin hook set on him.
Yeah.
And pulled the hook clean out of the ladyfish and the trout at the same time. So I was like, that's why we don't do that. And we had already had that discussion earlier in the day because we were doing the same thing and went 2 for 7 on king mackerel because we were Roland Martin hook setting again, with little number 4 stinger hooks. So I just said, guys, you got to get rid of this whole bass thing that you've watched on TV. You have to just forget that because what they do is they edit out 90% of the fish that they didn't hook whenever they did that. And they only show you the 10% that they did hook because it's more dramatic than a more subtle hook set is. But it's not as effective. So, for those listeners out there and those guys out there, there may be 1 or 2 guys that disagree with me, but I can tell you this. If you're Roland Martin hook setting on number 4 treble hooks, your hookup to landing ratio is pretty low.
Well, now, Jim, in their defense, a lot of us old guys remember a time when hooks weren't nearly as sharp as they are now.
You're right about that.
When we were pulling ballyhoo with 8/0 needle eyes, they didn't have any sharp point to them. You better bury it or you weren't going to get that fish, and it's just the way a lot of guys learned. And
that you were using a lot of mono, back then as well.
Right.
Mono has some stretch, so there was a shock absorber and a little bit of forgiveness for the error in our ways, but this braided line and these high-tech rods that we have now, they just don't have that same type of shock absorption to them. So, it is. You live and you learn.
So stop setting the hook.
Yeah. But it was, oh my goodness, Rick, it was one of the biggest trout that I've seen in quite a few years now. And definitely the biggest fish in at least 2 years that we had hooked up on the boat. But, besides that, we've got a bunch of other stuff going on. Mangrove snapper bite, vermilion snapper bite out of Ponce had picked up over the weekend. The flounder bite out of Ponce, right there in the nearshore reef. Captain Mark Gibson gave me a good report and good stuff going on there. Amberjack throughout the region is solid in the 200 to 250 foot depth, mainly on the wrecks. They haven't been holding on the reefs as much. And then to give you a final recap, down between Vero and Sebastian, those 40-foot ledges are starting to hold some mutton snapper. And guys are drifting with live baits on long leaders, with live pilchers or live greenies, and starting to get some of those inshore mutton. And so I'm actually probably going to end up trying that one day this week to see if I can maybe get a little bit of a mutton bite going.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to look forward to hearing about your mutton bite next week. Jimmy, we appreciate it.
All right, you guys take care, and everybody out there, go out there and catch a memory and have a great week.
Thank you, Jim. Now let's move on down the coast a little bit to one of my favorite places. In fact, I'm headed there after the podcast tonight because my buddy John Earhart says the sailfish are biting. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here, Rick.
Good. Did you fish today?
Yes, sir. We had pretty good offshore fishing today. Seas were about 3 feet. Stopped first thing in the morning, loaded up the live wells with some nice threadfin herrings, and then we shot out about 4 miles and started catching sailfish, and it was pretty much nonstop action for our half-day charter. We're catching a lot of sailfish, anywhere from like 90 to 160 feet of water, mostly live bait trolling. We're bump trolling, slowly trolling around, edges, weed lines, any kind of color change right now. And it seems like there's a lot of fish around. So, if you're looking to catch sailfish, Stuart, Florida is the place to do it right now. There's plenty of them around. There's a few kingfish mixed in, some mahi. It's pretty darn good offshore fishing right now. And if you're tired of catching sailfish and kingfish and mahi, you can always drop down to the bottom on the 6 and 8 mile reef, and we're catching a lot of lane snappers, mangroves, mutton. We're fishing chicken rigs and long leaders right now for the snappers, and they're anywhere from 2 to 10 pounds. So there's plenty of action both on the top and the bottom right now if you're fishing in Stuart, Florida.
John, that sounds real good. Anything going on inshore?
Yeah, inshore right now, we've got a whole lot of those red minnows, glass minnows, and they're right up on the beach, and there's a lot of tarpon mixed in those minnows. It can be hard to get these big tarpon to feed when they're eating those little minnows because it's hard to match your bait size to that of a minnow, but there's a lot of tarpon around right now, a lot of snook, and they're all feeding on these minnows early in the morning, late in the evening. So if you have a fly rod or a smaller artificial lure you can use to cast in these large schools of minnows, chances are you're going to catch a big tarpon or a big snook right now.
Outstanding, boy. It sounds like it's good. Hey, I want to ask you a question. We're starting a new segment tonight called Chasing the Bite. And so many people here in Florida, particularly this year with everything that's happened, are staying in Florida as kind of a staycation. Looking forward for the next 6 weeks or so. When should they come to Stuart, and what are they going to catch when they do?
The summertime in Stuart, Florida, it really does capitalize on the name that they call the Stuart Sailfish Capital of the World, because summertime, you come to Stuart, you only have to go a couple miles offshore, and there's a lot of sailfish in our area, and it seems like they're here close to shore spawning. It's flat, calm seas. Whether you have a small bay boat or you have a 60-foot Jim Smith, I mean, there is just a great opportunity to catch sailfish, plenty of them, and they're pretty easy to come by. So, I mean, by all means, if you're around Stuart, Florida in the summertime, sail fishing is hands down the thing you're going to want to do.
All right. When would you come?
Typically, right around the July full moon is some very spectacular sail fishing in Stuart. Pretty much June, July, and August, you're going to have phenomenal sail fishing, and it's relatively close to shore, and it's just easy to access these fish right out of St. Lucie Inlet.
We all believed everywhere that wintertime was the time for sailfish in Stuart. And man, I've been down there many a year when I was a kid with 2 jackets on and water coming over the side, and it's rough as heck, and we're picking at the sailfish. I didn't know till a few years ago, your guys' summer sailfish bite is spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, right around the July full moon, it's real easy to target these fish, and if you're coming down in the winter, usually February is going to be your best month to target them, but I don't know why you would want to do that. If you could come down in July and it's less than 1 foot seas and you're only having to go maybe 3-4 miles out to catch them, it's a hard toss-up. But, I mean, definitely you're going to want to focus on these sailfish here in July. They're pretty easy to come by, and you can see them free jumping from a mile away. So it's pretty easy to locate them. They just got to set out and hope that they'll bite.
Well, the boys need to start making their leaders, because that full moon's like right around the 4th or 5th of July this year. So it's coming right up, and I don't know about anybody else, but I know where I'll be on the 4th of July. I'll be in Stuart, Florida. Thank you, John.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Let's move a little further south and check in with our man, Alan Sherman. Alan, how are things going in Miami?
Things are good. We've had quite a bit of rain this week, but we've had rain forecasts that were really bad, but then not a lot of rain. So, it kept a lot of people off the water, but the ones that went out actually enjoyed some pretty nice days on the water. Our fishing has been okay. Nothing spectacular. There's been kingfish out offshore and bonitas and black tunas and dolphin and a few sailfish. They're just not getting bunches of them like we do at times. And most of that action is just outside the outer reef, say 80 feet on out to 300 feet. The dolphin fishing has been spotty. There's fish out there, but they're scattered.
Uh-huh.
And they've been anywhere from the blue water edge all the way out to over 1,000 feet of water. So you have to do some running and gunning to find them. But once you do, there's quite a few schoolies out there, a few keepers, a few decent fish, but if you're looking for dolphin, it's run and gun, find some birds, find some debris, find a good weed line, and then put some baits out. There's also sword fishing, which has been pretty good recently, daytime and at night. Cool thing there is, if you don't want to get sunburned, you can fish them closer to the surface, out, say, 1,100 feet instead of 2,000 feet. At night, they come up to the surface. You're fishing 1,100 feet of water, but you're targeting them from the surface down to about 100 feet. And that way you can actually hand crank them, fight them on a rod and reel. Whereas during the daytime, they deep drop for them, and they're fishing close to 2,000 feet of water and on the bottom. So you have your choices now. We have a great forecast coming up for the rest of the week, all the way into the weekend, with light winds, 5 to 10 mile an hour, southeast to east winds, and that'll make it easy for almost anybody to get out there if they're interested.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you a question, Alan. It seems to me like this year, more and more people, particularly here in Florida, are deciding to stay in Florida for their vacation this year. Everybody's nervous about going overseas. Everybody's nervous about traveling to other states, which I don't blame them. For the fishermen that have got some time coming up this summer, when and where should they come to Miami? What should they fish for?
So right now, because all the kids are out of school, vacations usually start right now. But people, like you said, they're not planning these vacations because they're concerned, and they should be. So if they are staying here in Miami and they don't want to get sunburned, from next week all the way into August, the mangrove snappers will start spawning on the offshore reefs.
Uh-huh.
And it's a bottom fishing. You anchor the boat, you chum, and you fish with cut bait, and you can easily catch your 5 mangrove snapper limit pretty quick. These fish range in size from a half a pound on up to 10 pounds or more. It's hard to find a 10-pounder anymore, but you're going to catch quite a few fish in the 3 to 5 pound range. They fight hard, they pull hard, and they're very good eating. They have to be 10 inches to be kept, and you're allowed 5 per person. You can catch another 5 snappers, like yellowtails or mutton snappers, to add to that to get your 10 snapper limit. But that will start next week. For years, I ran party boats out of Haulover Inlet, and there was one spot, they called it the summer spot. It was straight offshore of Haulover Inlet in 45, 50 feet of water. And I have records that go back a long ways. And that spot would usually fire up June 22nd. Now, that spot, because it was so close to the inlet, got hammered by a lot of people. So the numbers of fish and the size of the fish that come there still aren't quite what they once were, but you can still fish a spot like that and get a limit without any trouble. But there are dozens of spots like that, from Government Cut all the way to Port Everglades, and the depths that these fish will come to every year can be as shallow as 15 feet and as deep as 80 or 90 feet. And as one spot, slows down, another spot takes off. And the only thing that protects those fish while they're spawning is the limits and the currents. During the summer, we get really strong north and south currents. And, I can recall trips where in 15 feet of water, you needed 6 ounces to hit the bottom. Can you imagine that?
Whew, so yeah, I can.
You get currents like that in that shallow water, it makes it pretty difficult to fish. And luckily for the fish, they get to do their spawning thing and they don't get caught while it's happening. But yeah, that is something that I would recommend. The party boats target these fish. They charge by the head. There's plenty of spots, and they're doing the social distancing on these boats. If you have your own boat, you can easily do this on a nice calm day, which you get plenty of in the summer. And otherwise there are center console, guides and captains out there that would be willing to take you out there and put you on the fish as well. If
you had to pick 1 week for your vacation, when would you come to do that?
We actually are doing a vacation this summer, and it's August 15th. So that's the week we chose.
Okay. Well, you've got more experience than anybody, so I think I'd choose the same week you do.
Well, I hope not. I want the waters to myself.
Yeah, I understand.
Really, you can't miss if that's the fish you're targeting. If you plan on a trip, between next week all the way into early August. You'll have a really good shot at catching those fish. But it's a nighttime fishery. You don't get sunburned, and it's pretty nice.
That's a good time to come. Perfect, Alan. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We look forward to talking with you next week.
Good enough. I'll talk to you then.
All right. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Alan. Now, let's head down to the Keys and find out what's happening right now in Alamorada, because they're not closed anymore. They are plenty booked up with customers. So glad to be talking to our buddy, Captain Nick Stancic. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing great, son. Tell me about fishing in Alamorada.
Well, we had some pretty decent weather the last few days. We had some wind, last week, but I fished 5 trips past week, and we caught 9 swordfish. So on 4 trips we got 2, and 1 trip we got 1. There's been some mahis. The mahis been kind of hit and miss. There was a few really good days, but then today about half the boats got them good, and half the boats just caught a handful. So there's some mahis and some swords around, so that's been good.
Wow, that is fantastic news. You say you had 9 swordfish in 5 trips?
Yep, that we did, and we lost a couple others, so we were happy about that.
As well you should be. Nick, do you have any clues? Do you have any reason to believe? Is it moon phase? What is it that makes them bite?
I look at moon and tide and all that stuff and used to take notes on all of it, but so many days are decided by 1 or 2 bites. When you get 1 bite on any, game fish or sport fish and catch it, you got a great day. But, we were fishing. There was a lot of boats fishing this past week that I saw, and about a third of the boats caught fish. A couple of trips we had 3 bites, and other boats a few miles away didn't have any, so that location was really key, just being in the right spot. I'm not a big fan of the full moon. I like to be away from it a little bit, but we've had a few good days on the full, but if I had to pick, I'd at least 3 or 4 days from the full moon anywhere on that side of it.
The story I always tell, I've always hated the full moon and felt like the week building up to it was perfect. And then the week after it was just terrible. And I had that so pounded into my brain. So we get to go marlin fishing over in the Bahamas for a week. And unfortunately, our first day of fishing was going to be the supermoon of 2010, which I've still got pictures of. It was massive. And I thought, well, we're going tomorrow, but, don't expect much, because obviously the fish can see to feed at night. There won't be much to it. Nick, it's the only 5 marlin day I ever had. So,
I never caught 5 and I caught 4 1 2 ago. 5 is great. That's awesome.
So don't always think you know what you think you know.
No, but always fishing. There's always exceptions to the rules.
Isn't that the truth? Anything going on in the backcountry?
Yeah, there's still been some tarpon around. There's actually been quite a few snook around, and another buddy caught some tail and redfish. Not big reds, but good action, he said. So the backcountry's been pretty steady. It's getting hot right now is the one bad thing. So some of the guys are doing half days. Offshore boats today, I think, we got about 18 offshore boats here. I did an oil change and went snorkeling, but 16 other 17 boats that were here, they all fished. So it's slam busy down here the last few days. So we've been happy about that. That's
very good news. Very good news indeed. All right, my boy, please tell me we can talk with you next week and check in, make sure you're on another swordfish streak.
I hope so. Yep, give me a call, Rick. Take care, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Nick. All right, let's take a little trip around. Now we're going to start around the other side of the state, starting in 10,000 Islands with our buddy Steve Dall. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you doing this week?
Outstanding.
Good deal.
Tell me what's going on fish-wise. You guys catch anything this week?
Yeah, it's been good. I actually had a chance. I had an off day, and I got to play with some American red snapper this week, so I'm ecstatic. I got a nice inventory of some fish in my freezer, so I'm happy. But kind of what we were talking about last week, this is the recreational season's now open in the Gulf of Mexico, and fish are abound, and there's some big fish. I know that sounds, speaking to you, where you're kind of in the red snapper capital on your side, but for us, it's a pretty special thing. We're getting a lot of double-digit fish as far as weight-wise, lots of 10 to 12-pound fish with 15s easily in the mix. And those are really good red snapper for us on our coast. As we've spoken in the past, you definitely have to commit to it. It's a little bit longer commute than probably what a lot of people on the East Coast are used to. But it's definitely all the talk in our area. Bait shops are out of frozen bait. People are calling in their bait orders, like if they're takeout orders. I mean, it's been really good. So the red snapper's kind of taken the offshore scene really well. The inshore side's doing exceptionally well still too. The snook fishing is, right back to normal as we were talking water's cleared and we're, in really good shape. So a lot of sight fishing opportunities on the beaches. And that pretty much stems through northern Naples all the way through the 10,000 Islands. So it's a really broad area that you could do that this time of year. And those fish will be around all of June until they start kind of making a push out of there. So they're ready, willing, and able. I don't want to discredit the fact that if you only have an hour or even 45 minutes to burn in the morning and, you're local, you're on your way to work, or walking the beach is probably one of the very best ways to do this because you don't have the pressure and the noise from boats. So these fish can be a little skittish, especially these bigger fish. And sight casting them on the beach, maybe for a little bit in the morning prior to you going into the office or the job site is a great way to do it. And a lot of people do it. Fly fishermen in particular love this time of year because it allows them, sight fishing opportunities for them. So it's just a really good time. The American red snapper and the snook on the beaches is kind of our two main things we're doing right now.
Steve, how many days have the red snapper been open?
Let's see. What is today? The 15th. So what did we open up on the 10th or 11th? I believe it was the 11th.
Okay. Are they starting to show any signs of being picked over?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
I mean, there's our barometer at our marinas. We don't. A lot of the bigger carcasses obviously don't go in the water due to pelicans and dragging those on boats and things like that. So we kind of have a garbage can system at our cleaning station, which is a really nice cleaning station.
Mm-hmm.
And let's put it this way: there's multiple garbage cans needed this time of year.
Gotcha.
So
excellent. I got a question for you. Now, an awful lot of Floridians this year are not traveling to faraway destinations for their vacations. A lot of us are staying home, obviously because of the world situation. And we're traveling around Florida. I know myself, I'm making a lot of trips to Stewart. I'm a sailfish nut. I just can't go more than a week or so without getting down there. If somebody's going to come down to your area, what kind of fishing should they highlight, and when should they be there in the next 6-8 weeks?
Boca Grande on a strong outgoing tide, which is affectionately called a hill tide. Locally, you'll hear that if you've ever fished Boca Grande. You want to time those trips around that. And what that does is it flushes tons of water, bait, and crabs out Boca Grande Pass. And it's basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for the tarpon. And this is probably going to be, I would assume, the last big hill tide of the year. So these migratory fish that we have that stake up residency for, a good, they can start down my region, as early as February. Typically it's, mid-March, we'll start seeing the migration of fish through, but then they share from us all the way to Boca Grande up until mid-June here. And sometimes it goes into July. It's all kind of relevant, the moon and, water temperature. But the reality is, given the tides and the lunar cycle this month, I'm saying Wednesday probably through Sunday. If you've never been to Boca Grande Pass, you probably need to make a commitment to take a vacation day, grab the kids. They're out of school right now, and either hire a captain. It can be a little daunting out there. It's not as remote style fishing. It's a lot of drifting through areas, and there is definitely a process to it. So if you've never done it before,
hire a captain. Absolutely,
you with an experienced angler or with a captain. But I would say right now,
if there's
no better time than the present.
If there's any place on earth that I would recommend somebody go the first time they're going to go there, they hire a guide, it would be Boca Grande Pass.
It is. It's pretty intimidating if you've never done it. And the water, Rick, you've been there. It can get a little nasty out there too. So it's not for the faint of heart. You're within eyesight of shore, but we're talking about very, very strong currents in deep water, almost fathoms relative to what we're used to in Southwest Florida in the 10K. So I always recommend that you go with a captain, kind of learn it a little bit, or, some other experienced anglers. But this week it's going to be on fire.
Got it. Hey, Steve, that's perfect advice. Thanks so much. We look forward to talking with you next week, if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it.
Okay, buddy. Thanks, Steve.
All right, be well.
Now let's pull right around a little more to the southwest, that same area, and check in with our buddy Greg Stamper from Snook Stamp Charters. Greg, how are you?
Doing fantastic.
You've done that Boca Grande madness, haven't you?
Yeah, I used to do that a lot in the past. Now I pick on my own little private stash of schools here and there. I find it a little bit more enjoyable than doing the battle royal amongst everybody else.
I have a good friend that always says, I'm just not mature enough to get in there. And I think that's probably true. I'd tend to lose it, I think, with some of those people pretty quick. Tell me about fishing in your area.
Well, fishing has been outstanding. I can start inshore and just work the way out because everything's happening. We continue to have just an excellent bite all around. The back bays are definitely full speed for our juvenile tarpon, our redfish, and our snook all week. It just depends on what you're doing and what tide you're doing it on and how early you want to get up. But I can't say enough. The last 3-4 days, I've had singles with me every day, and we've been going out for these juvenile tarpon early in the morning. And, in 4 or 5 hours, you can probably have a chance at 3, 4, 5 fish every hour, with the last couple hours as it gets hotter not being as good. But the snook and the redfish can make up for that once you get past those first couple hours early in the morning. Now, the guys who've been near shore are still just going after those big tarpon. They're everywhere. They're finding them in packs. They're moving anywhere from way south of us down by Wiggins all the way up past San Antonio and Captiva. Certainly Boca Grande will be full of them. And you mentioned earlier, we do have some really good drops and tides this week. So not only if you just want to go out and get your crabs to go out and fish for those independent schools that are here and there, or you just want to go out to Boca Grande or one of those places, it's going to be melee this week in those areas. But what I would tell you to do is if you got good numbers, go permit fishing because everybody who's going to be tarpon fishing is going to be going heyday wild this entire week on those fish. That's going to lead those big schools of permit all by themselves out in those wrecks and them reefs, and you're going to have easy pickings.
Cool. I've never caught a permit, and I've always wanted to, Greg. Is this a good time for them?
We got permit here pretty much not all year round, but almost all year round. Some of our wrecks and reefs just hold such giant fish. This week I saw pictures, and I saw a couple fish actually came in. They were going to eat them, but I saw a lot of pictures this week of fish that were in the upper 20s, mid 20s, which for us, Rick, is kind of not a big deal. I mean, you can get a lot of 12 to 20 pounders, but when you start getting these upper, 25 to 30 to 35 pounders, that's when you've really, got a nice permit. But yeah, we can do that. We'll trade a trip. You'll take me sail fishing. I'll take you out there for those permits.
I'm in. Okay. All right. I'm in.
All right.
Be at Pirates Cove Marina at 6:30 tomorrow morning.
I can't. I'll be fishing for tarpon then.
Okay. I'll be fishing for sailfish. One thing for sure, we'll both be happy. Thank you, Greg. We appreciate it so much.
All right. You're welcome, Rick. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. You got it. Captain Greg Stamper from Southwest Florida. And let me tell you, Greg is brought to you, along with all of our action spotters, each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrid boats? You want youngboats.com.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat Facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Let's check into West Central with our buddy Ray Markham and find out what's happening there. Raymond, you with us?
Yes, sir. I'm telling you, sitting here telling me about the tarpon down south here, I'm wondering if we got as many tarpon, if not more, up here as they got down there in Boca Grande.
I don't doubt that. That's a good problem indeed. Tell me what they've been catching this week.
Tarpon galore. And we haven't even come into the best part of the tarpon fishing, which should be coming up this weekend. Sunday, you got the new moon, and the late afternoon outgoing tide is the tide to fish. I'm talking, between an hour to an hour and a half before sunset till about 2 hours afterwards. We've got a tide dropping out that's going to be 3 feet of tide change between the high tide just afternoon and the low tide right after dusk. So that tide is going to really be ripping out of here. It's going to carry a lot of water, and with it, it's going to carry a whole ton of crabs and shrimp out of Tampa Bay area and all the passes along the coast here. And it's going to pull those things out, and it'll create weed lines. And on those weed lines, those crabs are just going to hang on to the weeds, and you will see tarpon just rolling all over the place, slurping up crabs. So if you're a live bait guy and you want to get out there and do some easy tarpon fishing, as long as you can get away from the mattering crowd that has been absolutely crazy lately, you're probably going to find some happy fish and catch some nice tarpon.
Good deal. That's our look into the future. You feel like tarpon are going to be the thing, and now's going to be the time to get there between now and next week, right?
I'm saying this is going to be the best because this is probably our pre-spawn fish. In other words, they're the biggest these fish are going to get this year. And after this spawn, you're going to see a bunch of fish disappear out in the Gulf to go do some spawning. And when that happens, they're going to come back in, and they're going to be a few pounds shy of what they were before. But that on a positive note, they're going to be real hungry when they come back. But it's not going to be for another week or two.
I see. Then. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to chase the bite a little bit. When would you be there if you say you had a 3-day vacation coming up?
Okay, well, I would do it this weekend. And if you got to do a weekend, then I would probably do Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Or, you can do Friday, but Friday's been like the new Saturdays around here for some reason. There's too much boat traffic. Mondays have been a little bit lighter on traffic. Fish are just starting to get used to not having so much pressure on Monday. So, those would be good days to do it. Now, if you get out in the morning, which can also be good, the tide's not going to be as strong in the morning, but it's still going to be a good drop. I would be fishing probably thread fins or something after the tide changes when it comes back in. But on the outgoing, I would definitely fish crabs. Crabs and shrimp, that'll do her.
Anything else been going on this week?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the snook bite has been crazy, and it's going to be good this weekend, too, because the same thing that really gets these tarpon going are going to get the snook going as well. Tarpon are really ganging up in the passes, and there's just wads of them along the beaches, up and down the shore from Sarasota way the heck up north. And it just seems to me that when you talk to my buddy William Tony coming up here next, he's probably going to be telling you about some nice fish they're catching up there as well. But the snook bite has been crazy. I mean, it seems like nothing to do a 30 to 50 snook day on artificials right now. Guys that are fishing live bait, it's just been insane.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I hope they're treating them nice and letting them go and all that kind of good stuff so that they'll be ready to spawn here when the love siren starts going on.
It's 2 a.m. at the bar, Ray. That's what time it is.
Ain't no ugly snook at 2 a.m.
That's right. Hey, Ray, we always appreciate it. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it, bud.
Thank you, Raymond.
We'll catch you later.
Let's move up into the Big Bend and check in with our man, William Tony. William, how are you?
Doing good right here in downtown Homosassa. Little breezy, but nice. It ain't as hot.
Yeah. This north wind. I don't know, William. I'm supposed to take my grandson sailfish fishing tomorrow. They're chewing like dogs, but I don't want it to be too rough.
Well, Dramamine, suck it up. I don't know what kind of medicine you got to take, but I'm a wimp when it comes to that, so I don't know. It's your call, Captain.
Well, I can tell you this much. My grandson wraps me around the neck and says, Grandpa, I don't feel good. I want to go home. Trip's over. Wind him up.
You got it.
Yep.
I'm a father too, bud, and not a grandfather yet, but that's what tugs on the heartstrings, and you want them to have a good time and remember the experience.
Isn't that the truth? And let me tell you something, buddy. You haven't reached grandfather status yet. Nothing is better. In first place is being a grandpa. In second place is nothing. The contest is over. All right,
that's right.
Let's talk fishing. What's going on this week up in Homosassa?
Well, we're looking at new moon tides coming in they're turning in with the east wind. It took a little bit of time for them to turn this morning around 9, but we're looking through the week, every day progressing about an hour ahead. So 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, 11 on a Wednesday, and so on through the weekend. On that incoming tide, inshore redfish bite's been very good. Been getting them on live shrimp and live pinfish. The key to finding them is you got to find the mullet. If you don't see mullet, it's not even worth your time. So once you find mullet, there's redfish mixed in, and that's the bait to get the bite. Trout's been kind of waning. It hasn't been that good. Our water temperature got up pretty good last week after that blow, and we had a pretty good humid week of all that tropical air in the Gulf. So if you want some trout, I would suggest fishing the 8 to 10 foot range. But if you want some trout early in the morning, you want to get up at daylight and dog it out, that 3 to about 4 foot area with kelp bottom around Chassahowiska Bay, Waukesassa Bay, the 11 prong area, the grass flats out there towards Cedar Key off the south side of the shipping channel would probably produce you some few fish. But once it gets hot or you feel it, it's best to move out.
Gotcha. Anything going on offshore?
Offshore, I saw Captain Chris Wilkins go out today, and I tell you what, they earned it. Red grouper, American red grouper bite is on out and about 50 foot, which is a pretty good run for us. But if you're willing to go out there in rough conditions, like last week, it was pretty much just handed to you. This week is going to be, if the wind dies down, that 50 foot to 60 foot range, sardines, live pinfish has been getting American red snapper and also gag grouper. I did see a couple guys come in this past weekend with some red grouper, the first ones I've seen in a long time, the fire trucks, and they were in about 70 feet of water on rubbly bottom, kind of live bottom, but nothing, no big high profile.
Yeah, that's kind of their MO, isn't it? They tend to be more on a what we call a cheesecloth type bottom than they do a true ledge, don't they?
Absolutely. Swiss cheese, kind of, sometimes the sponges and little tiny ledges and rubbly type of things. Way offshore, that's one of the things that's kind of still a mystery to me, but I equate it back inshore, like for black sea bass, when you're fishing that 8 to 14 foot range here on the Big Bend, that type of bottom holds more sea bass. And when you get to the bigger structure, I always tell people, if you're catching a lot of sea bass on a rock, you're not going to get grouper. But if you're catching a lot of grouper, you're not going to get sea bass because they like to eat, the grouper eat the sea bass and, and everything like that. So when you're on that kind of rubbly type of Swiss cheese or sea fan, what we call basket sponge bottom, that's where we'll get the sea bass here on our side.
Gotcha. All right. Hey, look, before you go, I've got a question for you. So many Floridians are staying home this summer. If they want to come to the Big Bend area in the next, 6 weeks or so, when should they come and what's the highlight going to be?
All right, here's my highlight for the Big Bend. And people are goo gaga over scallops.
That's me.
And well, I love them too. They're great eating. And here on the Big Bend, I've had a couple people tell me we've have a little bit more than we did last year. Now, I haven't gone out and personally can testify to it myself, but that full moon coming up July 5th, the season opens July 1st, and so July 5th is going to be the full moon. And normally I look forward to that big high tide because I'm a fisherman. But for scalloping on that big full moon, low tide is going to bottom out, and that's going to make that water so much shallower for folks to get out there and capitalize on the scallop. So I know that people want to come out and do it. It's already getting ramped up. Our little towns here on the Big Bend are, looking forward to it for the economic benefit. But that July 5th full moon, look for that low tide phase, and that's where you're going to get the most of your scallops. You can't even put your mask on sometimes. You're just going to have to just bend over and pick them up.
Love it. I love it when they're like that. I'll never forget the first time I ever saw one swim. I didn't know they swam, and I see one go shooting by me, and I'm thinking, somebody's playing a prank on me. That's not a swimming scallop.
He's on a string.
I didn't even grab at it. I thought, no, you're not going to fool me. I just let him go. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to that full moon in July for a lot of reasons. Scallops is certainly a good one. We'll look forward to talking with you next week if that's okay.
I'll be right here, bud. Thank you,
William. Now let's kick it up into the Northwest section and check in with our buddy from KC Charters, Captain Kevin Lanier. Kevin, how are you?
Captain Rick, I'm doing just fine. I'm up to my eyeballs in red snapper.
My crystal ball tells me that there have been some red snapper caught on that gorgeous new World Cat.
Yes, sir. Red snapper has been very good to us. So far, it's been phenomenal in the days we can get out. Of course, we've had a little bit of weather just like everybody else has with this northeast wind, but we have had a lot of success out there in the water.
Outstanding. How far are you having to go to get them?
We're running most of our trips between 24 and 45 miles, depending on the length of the trip. If a guy books a full day with us, we're running out there 36 to 45 miles.
Now, let me ask you a question. It's been open for how long now?
For me, it's been open since June 1st.
Do you see any sign of them being picked over?
No, but I do know the public recreational season opened on the 11th, and some of our more, famous public spots, they're a little thin by the end of the weekend because guys hit them pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
We won't see picked over probably there's so many spots out here. If you kind of know where to go, you can go to fresh spots usually every week.
Gotcha. Okay. How much longer will it be open?
We're up till the 31st of July. A lot of people really talk about the red snapper, but we've been getting 3 to 6 gag grouper a trip. Saturday, we got a 26-pound gag grouper, followed by about an 18. Today, we got an 18 and a 15. So there's some nice gag grouper out there, too.
That's sweet. Now, that makes for a nice box of fish when you can add that to it. And I'm sure the vermilions are still biting, right?
The vermilions are still biting, and those small ones, them grouper love them small vermilions.
Kevin. Be careful, Kevin.
I heard that from a friend.
Yeah, right. Your friend said that a 10-inch vermilion would clobber those, would clobber those big red snapper. I understand. Yep, I sure do. Yep, yeah. I know about that. All right, buddy. What else is going on? You heard anything inshore?
Not much inshore. So much focus is on the offshore world and things like that right now. We are hearing some flounder picked up around the bays and canals. There's a lot of opportunity this time of year, as you know it as well as anybody. If you want to go fishing and you can get on a boat, now is the time to go. Between now and the end of July, it is going to be fantastic. And I know we're talking about some of the best times to travel and things like that. If you can get up here 4 or 5 days before the new moon and 4 or 5 days after the new moon, I think you're going to see a lot of success in the water.
Fantastic. Kevin, thank you so much. Please tell me we can talk with you again next week.
You can talk to me next week. I'll be here. But you guys check out my website, kcsportfishing.com. or we post our pictures on Facebook every day from our charters at KC Sport Fishing.
KCSportfishing.com or KC Sport Fishing is your Facebook page, right?
Facebook and Instagram. Yes, we're on there too.
Got it. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. Take care. I'll bet you I know another place that's wide open out in the Panhandle. That's where we find Captain Tyler Massey. Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rick. How are y'all doing?
Good. Any snapper and grouper getting caught out there?
Oh, yeah. Snapper are chewing the hooks off.
Are the fish showing any signs of being picked over?
No, not at all, really. I mean, we did have a little bit of a opening weekend. It was a lot rougher than the forecast stated. So
imagine that.
I don't think that they got beat down as hard over the weekend because people just couldn't get out there to them. I mean, we fished, but it was the slow go for us. Took it easy and went out there and caught them and then pretty much came back in. So it was a solid 3 foot just about all weekend. And the Gulf 3 foot is not very pleasant.
Yeah, it's a little tight, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
3 foot at about 4 seconds.
Yep. You had any big ones yet?
Yeah, 26 pounds is the biggest one I've had this year. And we've had several in the upper teens, maybe one more over 20, and 26 was the biggest one.
That's really, really good fishing. No doubt. The grouper been with them?
Yeah, we've been catching a few groupers. I caught a couple yesterday that were too short. The first week, though, we caught some nice ones. The grouper opened on June 1st for everybody. And I haven't really gone grouper fishing. It's all been bycatch. But, it's something you can always expect when you're snapper fishing is to pick up a few gags.
You heard anything else? Anything else going on besides snapper and grouper?
Yeah, people have been actually catching a few wahoo offshore as well, trolling around our edge and in around 200 foot or so. And the people have been catching one or two. And I had a wahoo come up to the boat when I was bottom fishing and eat a bait off a hook when I was about to drop. So there's definitely a few of those around as well.
Oh, that's outstanding. Any inshore news going on?
Yeah, inshore news, it's going to be the early morning speckled trout, the nighttime speckled trout bite, and also a few redfish on the flats. The middle of the day, it's getting hot. The middle of the day is probably not the best time to go for the trout. Early morning, late afternoon, and then redfish are fishing structure, rock piles, docks, bridges, that kind of stuff, and using live bait for those.
Now, you guys get a lot of night fishing over there this time of year, too, don't you?
Yeah. We don't do too many on charters. It throws our schedule off. But a lot of people in the area do some nighttime fishing.
Trout fishing is a lot more comfortable at 10 o'clock p.m. than it is at 10 o'clock a.m. this time of year.
Oh, yeah. I grew up doing a lot of that, and it's fantastic. Plenty of dock sites to fish, and there's a lot of fish around.
Tyler, thank you so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yep, I'll be here.
All right, buddy. Tyler Massey from the Panhandle wraps up our trip around the state of Florida tonight. Gosh, I've enjoyed tonight's trip and even our little soiree over to Costa Rica. Craig has some great news. He'll be opening up soon over there. And a lot of advice for people that wanted to stay in state this year. Everybody seems to feel like this full moon or this new moon coming up is going to be good. Now, when you come around up into the Panhandle, I tell you what, our buddy William Toney said, hey, wait for that full moon in July. That full moon is going to be scallop central. He loves it when the tide gets low doing that. The guys talking about tarpon said, get there as fast as you can. The tarpon are biting in Southwest Florida. They're biting in the 10,000 Islands. This may be a great weekend to get them. As for me, I know where I'll be all the way through that full moon. I want to be down in Stewart chasing sailfish. It's going to be great in June, July, and August. So plan a trip in Florida this year. We got great reports and great forecasters that can tell you just where to go, and we will be back next week with another forecast just like it. It's brought to you each and every week by Yamaha, by Tournament Master Chum, by Nosara Paradise Fishing, and by Young Boats. I'm Captain Rick Riles, and until next week, we'll see you on the rip.